Xiaomi had a pretty solid presence in the semi-flagship category in 2021, which included the Mi 11X Pro and the Mi 11. And recently, it launched the Xiaomi 11T Pro in India and a handful of other South Asian markets. Starting at 40,000 Indian rupees or 37,000 Indian rupees after bank discounts, it looks like an excellent value for money smartphone right now. And looking at all its positive reviews, I thought, hey, looks like Xiaomi has hit another slam dunk. But having used it for almost 7 days now, it feels anything but a slam dunk.
Yikes.
And that starts with the performance itself. Powering the phone is 2021's flagship Snapdragon 888 chipset, so it's only natural to expect flagship level performance here. Granted, the phone has zero trouble under lightweight everyday chores. The 11T Pro shows its true colors in testing workloads. Be it running benchmarks or gaming, there's some heavy performance throttling going on here. And I have a theory about why this is happening. You see, not all chips are created equal, or rather they cannot be created as absolute equals because of just how delicate, complicated, and ultimately imprecise the chip making process is. This is where chip binning comes in, which is basically grading or sorting chips based on their clock speed, heat output, voltage requirement, and the like. Let's take a look at 20-thread CPU throttling test on the Xiaomi 11T Pro. Compared to the Oneplus 9RT with the same processor, in both 30 and 60-minute runs, the 11T Pro shows roughly 10% higher throttling. Moreover, I noticed that the Cortex X1 core isn't up to the mark here. Rated at up to 2.84 GHz clock speed, this CPU core on the 11T Pro rests more comfortably in the 2.15 GHz territory instead. In comparison, 9RT's Cortex X1 is evidently fed more voltage since its resting clock speed revolves around 2.49 to 2.59 GHz. Regardless, our test tells us two possible things. One, the Snapdragon 888 on the Xiaomi 11T Pro is indeed low bit. And two, the liquid cool solution on this phone is not as effective either, meaning the company is deliberately lowering the voltage fed to the CPU cores to prevent significant heating. Onto the gaming side of things, running Genshin Impact at its highest settings is not ideal here. Under the 60 FPS mode, the phone kicks off at a healthy 51 to 57 FPS average. But with 20 minutes into the game, it was averaging just 25 to 28 FPS. Although the phone does not get insanely hot due to the cold ambient condition, I clocked the CPU and battery temperature at 49 and 39 degrees Celsius respectively. Likewise, I tried lowering the graphics quality 2 tiers below to medium, and even here the 11T Pro delivers an average 37 to 39 FPS for the first 3 to 4 minutes, then settles to 27 to 31 FPS after 10 minutes or so. Okay, on to some less taxing titles. PUBG Mobile is pretty smooth at Ultra HD graphics and ultra frame rates with a stable 40 FPS average. For a smoother gaming experience, bringing it down to extreme frame rates manages a stable 60 FPS with minimal frame drops. As expected, optimized games like Call of Duty break no sweat even at the max settings. Well, I wish I could say that since even Call of Duty is prone to minor frame drop to 52 to 56 FPS after a while. The good news here is that Xiaomi has enabled 120 FPS mode in most high FPS optimized games, at least the ones I play frequently. Critical Ops plays fine at ultra graphics with no frame drops or any heating concerns. The same goes for Oddmar, but Injustice 2 turned out to be an exception with observable frame drop to 91 to 106 FPS in certain situations. Alright, gaming aside, I am quite impressed with its RAM management since the phone manages to keep even the most resource-heavy apps in memory. Further sweetening the pot is the fact that the company has promised 3 years of OS and 4 years of security updates on the 11T Pro. Now that sounds great on paper, but I think the Xiaomi 11T Pro should have launched with the recently announced MIUI 13 based on Android 12, which would have the phone updated to Android 15. Instead, it ships with Android 11 and now will be updated up to Android 14 only. Getting to the design, this phone is not exactly eye candy either. Just look at it. It is so bland, so void of character. Especially the Meteorite Black variant that I have. This glossy glass finish is also home to fingerprints and smudges, whereas dust collects up way too easily under the camera module. Fortunately, the blue and white finishes of the 11T Pro bring a more palatable matte finish instead. Then again, this thing is wide. Like, why is it so wide? Hence, you can forget about a comfortable single-handed experience with this phone, although the heft and weight distribution are pretty good. Its 204 grams weight did not faze me in the slightest, but if you're accustomed to more lightweight phones, this will certainly take some getting used to. Likewise, the aluminium frames here have a nice matte finish. There's the power button on the right that's also a fingerprint reader, which is fast, accurate, and easy to reach. But the display is where this phone shines the brightest. This 6.67 inches Full HD AMOLED screen brings all the high-end features you could imagine, including a 120Hz refresh rate, 480Hz touch sampling rate, Dolby Vision support, Gorilla Glass Victus protection, and more. The colors here look punchy with great contrast and black levels. I found the P3 profile to be the sweet spot for my eyes, but Xiaomi gives you the option to tweak it as you please. Be it RGB levels or saturation, contrast, and gamma values, everything is customizable. This might not matter a whole lot to many, but people with color blindness will highly appreciate it. Moving on, I also found the ambient light sensor doing a great job of adjusting both brightness and color temperature of the display based on the surroundings. Moreover, the screen can get quite dim, which when paired with DC dimming makes for a cozy viewing experience during the night. This is also a true 10-bit display, so it can reproduce over 1 billion colors. And unlike the Xiaomi 11i Hypercharge that I reviewed recently, there's no trouble with HDR playback here. If I absolutely had to nitpick, its off-axis viewing angle is not the best, where things tend to look a little greenish when looking at it from the side. Complementing the amazing visuals is a fantastic set of stereo speakers tuned by Harman Kardon. With Dolby Atmos turned on, these speakers can get quite loud, the stereo separation is great, mids and highs sound terrific, and there is no audible distortion at the highest volume level.
When I try, but don't succeed. Yeah, it feels like you're the one who saves me. The one who saves me.
On a similar note, the X-axis linear vibration motor is just above average though, and this is one area where I think premium phones like this could do some rework. On the other hand, I had no trouble attending VoLTE calls on this phone. The software-based virtual proximity sensor has rendered no problem throughout my usage, but its sensitivity is vividly inferior to hardware-based solutions like the one found on the Oneplus 9RT. The Xiaomi 11T Pro borrows the same camera sensor arrangement as last year's Mi 11X Pro. Here you're getting a 108 megapixel HM2 primary lens alongside an 8 megapixel ultrawide and a 5 megapixel tele-macro camera. In my test, I found the daylight shots on the 11T Pro look a bit unnaturally brightened while retaining a mild yellowish, greenish hue. And although it takes pretty well-balanced photos in some cases, the exposure control can be a hit or miss sometimes. If you're someone who prefers punchier images, there's also a Pro Color mode that boosts saturation levels. Ultra-wide shots are not that detailed and look relatively contrast heavy. Also, the aforementioned greenish tint is a lot more pronounced here. Maybe Xiaomi should have gone with a 16 megapixel ultra-wide angle camera. I am not a fan of its portraits either. Subjects look over-sharpened, they look contrasty, and with an unnatural color tone. On top of a subpar subject focus, the exposure control gives up completely against a sunny background. It's the same with portrait selfies too, so Xiaomi should clearly fix this via a software update. Regular selfies are also all over the place, sometimes putting out decent images and sometimes looking ghoulish with excessive over-sharpening and reddish tint on the subject. If you're into macro photography, its tele-macro camera with a variable autofocus is certainly something you'll appreciate. And definitely it's better than the 2 megapixel images you get from the Oneplus 9RT. Likewise, Xiaomi 11T Pro takes nice nighttime shots too, especially when there's adequate ambient lighting. The detail levels are not half bad, but you can notice the airy greenish overlay, especially under dimly lit environment like this. And the way the image processing tries to maintain an equal level of exposure throughout the image ends up looking odd instead. With night mode turned on, you get sharper images with comparatively superior HDR processing. On the videography front, the 11T Pro can record up to 8K 30fps videos, but 4K resolution is still the way to go for many. Unfortunately, Xiaomi has skipped on OIS here, meaning 4K 60 or 30fps videos are subject to minor jitters. It even struggles with exposure maintenance. Even 1080p 60fps mode lacks any form of stabilization, and the steady mode is only available at 1080p 30fps. However, with a steady pair of hands, videos look steady enough at 60fps itself. About the selfie videos, well, they're capped out at 1080p 60fps, and as you can see, the background exposure control is not very good. And like the selfie images, the videos from the front camera tend to come out a bit over sharpened with a red tint. The audio pickup from the onboard microphone is good, but I would have liked it if the background noise cancellation was better. So it's clear from everything that I've discussed that the Xiaomi 11T Pro is not a good camera phone. The hardware is there, but the company has failed to couple that with an effective optimization. Oh wow, I am having a deja vu right now because it's the same complaint I had with the Mi 11X Pro. Some things never change, do they? In addition, fueled by a big 5000 mAh battery, I was expecting excellent endurance here. But all I managed to get was like 5 to 5.5 hours of screen on time under a medium use case. This includes binging a ton of YouTube besides browsing through social media apps and taking a few pictures every now and then. But with the provided 120-watt wired charger that alone costs around 4,000 rupees, it can take the battery from 2 to 100% in just 17 minutes. So I would quickly charge the phone as soon as I reach home in the evening or whenever I get ready to go to office in the morning. Then again, if you're someone who travels a lot, it would have been somewhat more useful if the charger was USB power delivery compatible. To sum it all up, taking into account everything that I've discussed so far, the Xiaomi 11T Pro has sadly failed to leave a good impression on me. Its performance throttling I talked about effectively puts it out of the radar for those who are looking for a good gaming phone. And the wide form factor combined with a relatively heavy build quality means the 11T Pro is not the most ergonomic phone to many either. Likewise, Xiaomi's camera optimization on this phone leaves a lot to be desired as well. That being said, the 11T Pro does have a few redeeming qualities. Its display is class-leading, the stereo speakers are top-notch, and the fact that Xiaomi provides a compatible charger inside the box is praiseworthy too. It also undercuts the Oneplus 9RT by an easy couple of thousand rupees, so the value for money argument comes into play as well. However, like I said in my Oneplus 9RT review, you can find the iQOO 7 Legend for a similar price, and that phone not only brings a throttle-free performance, but it also has a much more versatile camera arrangement, an in-display fingerprint sensor, and a lot cooler design. Plus, the iQOO 9 series is launching soon in India, which is going to offer even better specs for a similar price. So guys, that was all for our full review of the Xiaomi 11T Pro. What do you think about this phone? Do let me know in the comments below. Till then, I'm Pratima Adhikari, and thank you so much for watching.